Hello, everybody. Greetings from Elm Street. Today we are discussing Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, aka the best freaking movie in the franchise. Or at
I
least
would
one
have
of
to
them.
agree. I liked it better than the first one. Spoiler alert. But
I
I liked
did
the
as
first one.
well, personally. This movie's gonna be fucking awesome to talk about, man, because
Oh yeah.
there's so much to talk about, and honestly, I other than maybe like one or maybe I'd say one negative for me. Like, this movie's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah. I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of that mental ward asylum aesthetic. I always find it creepy, and it's just one of those horror trope thingies or aesthetics or whatever you want to call it. I love. So seeing that in this movie makes so much sense. It's brilliant, and I love it. I love it. So finally watching this movie, because I gotta say, I've only seen the first two in the remake, and then I watched this, and I loved it. I just thought the mental ward mixed with Freddy Krueger, it just makes so much sense. Because everyone, always being sedated, put to sleep, you gotta take sleep pills, so it's like, what better than bringing in the dream demon himself?
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, spoiler alert, this is actually brought back in Freddy versus Jason with basically just the patients, and they bring back a lot of things from this film. But this movie does a lot of things like in terms of a creative sense that it just like it gels together very well. Like, this feels like a
Yes.
sequel that
As
earns its
well,
place.
yeah. It's a sequel that's better than the original because they just do so much more. And it's not even like just a horror film. It's got some lighthearted moments, some funny moments. There were just genuinely funny jokes in this movie that did make me laugh because I thought like the comebacks from that one kid is just really funny. So it's like
Oh, dude.
it's like what I think really works with horror is when you have scenes that kind of feel out of place. Like they're a bit too lighthearted, maybe they're funny. Because when it goes back to the horror, it just hits differently because you're in a comfort zone and then you're back to the horror. So it hits so much harder. So I think like it does pretty well in this film.
Yeah. I
And
actually
it
agree.
makes you feel for the characters more because you're seeing them laugh, make jokes, you actually like them. And that's what makes some of the deaths more tension filled. Like, I think the one that gave me most tension is Philip's death. And his was also the most painful to watch. Like, don't get me wrong, I watch horror movies all the time, play horror games all the time. But something about Veins, and if you've seen his death, you know what I'm talking about. It's just something like that. Oh, I just can't handle it. I can't handle it. It was so painful to watch.
You know what? It was disturbing, but before we get into that, do you want to hear some of the script ideas for this movie?
Yes.
So, in Wes Craven's first draft, he actually wanted to do the plot of New Nightmare instead with this
Oh.
film. But you want to know what New Line said?
What?
This is too
No.
fucking stupid.
No! I'm glad it did get made, though. He didn't scrap the idea.
Exactly. It's a great idea, but I don't know if it necessarily would have went well during this time. Like, I think,
I'm kind of glad it got pushed,
yeah,
Because it wouldn't make sense as a sequel. It makes sense as its own thing.
I agree. And then John Saxon actually wrote a script for, he played Nancy's dad. He actually wrote his own script for the third Nightmare movie, which would have actually been a Nightmare on Elm Street prequel.
That's awesome.
And it actually would have been like Freddy would have actually been innocent.
That would have been actually really interesting. Because I know that they bring up that idea in the remake, but it turns out to not be true. And it turns out he did worse things. So it's just like, I kind of wish that there were a movie where Freddy was innocent. And it kind of would make sense on why he'd be so angry, because he was falsely killed.
Yeah. And then there was actually another script where I think Robert Englund did the script for the Nightmare movie, where it was actually going to follow Tina's older sister, and she comes back to Springwood, and it actually would have been called, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, would have been called Freddy's Funhouse, where it's basically in his own house, where it's like the Nightmare house, Nancy's house, I guess, but it would have like booby traps and stuff. So basically, it would be the Nightmare on Elm Street version of Saw.
That sounds actually pretty interesting.
It would have been very, very interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad we got what we got instead, though.
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of interesting things, but not everything can make sense. So I guess that's where spin-offs come into play.
True. Before we get into the film, though, let's go through the chat. We got Jack's Law. This movie had it all. There are times I feel like there must be an anime from this where this is coming from. Jack's Law. Even the weakest scene there where he smashes her head into the TV, careful what you wish for, was cool. I don't know. I thought that scene was one of the stronger scenes, though. Like
I did like that one, but something that did kind of tick me off is they called it a suicide, even though she's hanging. Like, she's kind of short, and that TV's really high up. Even if the TV was at her level, how would she have the force to smash her own head to kill her? That didn't make any sense to me.
You know what I say?
What?
It's a movie. It should. I don't think you should have said.
Okay. No, but for real though, they really out here ruling that as suicide. Like, that is the most like government conspiracy theory cover up type death. Oh, he shot himself in the back of the head twice, but it's a suicide. Just everyone out right now, hashtag Jennifer did not kill herself.
You're right. Zach, this is it, Austin. Your big break in YouTube. Welcome to prime time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, that was one of the iconic lines. Something about that death though I thought was really cool. It was very creative. I thought the effects were pretty good too.
And
like,
oh my god,
her body looked like a real body hanging there. Like, I know it's a dummy and you're not really seeing much of it, but it still looks pretty gnarly.
Dude, fucking Thomas in the house. What up, buddy? Haven't seen you in a while. Great to see you. He's like, haha, Nightmare Man in a bathtub.
He was in the bathtub in the first one. Yes. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing there, Freddy?
He's like, I want to go to Freddy's Funhouse.
Oh, I mean, you're gonna have an interesting time. I wouldn't say a fun one. That might not happen.
Jesus Christ, someone's like freaking doing fireworks outside my house.
You hear it too. I forget you live around the corner to me, so we're hearing the same stuff.
I'm looking over there. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And it's like freaking
I hear it. I'm scared it's gonna tick off my dog.
Oh, it's ticking off my dogs right now.
I can hear. Yeah, I can hear it outside my window, but I have my blinds closed, so I don't see anything.
This shit's ridiculous. I mean, it ain't the 4th of July anymore.
It's like every night. It's like every night around here. Fireworks. Like, dude, go to bed.
Facts.
If you want to stay up all night, go get an Xbox or something. I don't know. Like, leave everyone else alone.
No, get a PlayStation 4. Don't get an Xbox.
You can't play Dead Rising 3 if you don't have an Xbox or Left 4 Dead.
Well, I don't like. Well, actually, I like those games, but I'm not too crazy.
Oh, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
I do like Left 4 Dead though, but that's not what we're here to talk about. That's not what we're here to talk about.
Left 4 Dead is the best zombie game. So welcome to our Left 4 Dead review. The reason why okay, never mind. I ain't doing this.
Oh boy, we're already off the hinges. Thanks, fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. I mean, what the fuck is there to say about this movie? This movie's fantastic. I mean,
it is.
when you talk about like horror movies, like this one should be up there. I mean, it's phenomenally done, really
The
well.
effects, dude. Like obviously the CGI definitely dated. It's 1980s. It never holds up. But like the practical effects, dude, great. I gotta say though, one of the effects that didn't look too bad, that clearly was like camera work and editing and stuff like that, is when Freddy's standing over the ward, puppeteering Philip. That one actually looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, oh man. When we talk about positives, I got a lot to say about positives because there's so much to talk about. But I think because this movie is so good, I think we just got to discuss it. I don't think we need to go into positives or negatives. I think this is just a full on discussion episode because it's fucking amazing.
Mhm.
So what's the plot of this movie? Well, I think you summed it up earlier. They're in a psych ward, and
A bunch. So the remaining Elm Street children, 6 years later, are in a psych ward because each and every one of them try to kill themselves or they're trying to recover from something. And they're stuck in a psych ward and they're in a support group because they're all having the same bad dreams. And of course, nobody believes them because who would when a bunch of crazy teens start talking nonsense? And then one of the interns comes in and it's Nancy Thompson herself, and she starts helping the teens because she knows exactly what they're going through.
So it's like, okay, you don't fucking believe these kids, but if fucking Nancy said something, they'd be like, no, you're lying. Nope, the kids are getting you. You're crazy. Like, jeez. Like, people are so stupid. It took them to, like, Freddy's dead to basically figure out, oh, shit, maybe they're actually telling the truth here.
I
Because
know
it's like,
Neil Gordon was Dr. Neil Gordon there. He was starting to believe Nancy because I think he was kind of interested in her. But the one Dr. Elizabeth there, she didn't.
yeah, yeah. You can hear me, right? Like, I'm not the only one that's, am I muted here? I'm muted. Oh, fuck. Okay, well, our computer's resetting, so we're figuring the shit out here. So yeah, when it comes to Nightmare 3, when you talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 3, all right, yeah, the plot, like she said, all these kids, they're in this psych ward because Freddy's going after them. No one's believing them. They think they're just crazy teenagers, because really that's what they are. At this point they believe that they're crazy kids. They don't believe them. So we get into everything revolving this movie, and I will say the actors in this film are brilliant. Patricia Arquette as Kirsten. I think Kirsten is one of the best female protagonists that we've seen in a horror film. Like, besides for Jamie Lee Curtis and Heather Langenkamp, I think she did a really good strong, protagonist where you kind of feel for her. Love, the fact that there's dream powers that they establish, which is something that I will say that I liked about Nightmare 3 is the introduction of dream powers.
All right, so suddenly this is turning into a Microsoft computer review. If you ever buy a Microsoft computer, just admit that your IQ is lower than 50. These computers suck. They suck, okay?
Good review. Good review.
Yeah, the review is it sucks. Microsoft, you make terrible computers.
Damn.
Just trying to do a podcast. I'm gonna restart your thing. No, kill yourself.
We got a lot of variety in this review. We're talking about computers. We're talking Left 4 Dead and shit.
Yeah. And let me tell you, the computer ain't good.
I'm guessing her final grade for the computer out of 10.
It's a -2.
-2.
It can't
Damn.
even run Discord. It takes me 10 minutes to join the stream, and then it resets my computer. Anyway,
Yeah.
Dream Warriors.
I was actually bringing up what I liked about this film is that they introduced like dream powers, like how the kids, you know,
Yeah, I
they have their
like
own.
that.
I thought that was a really clever way of introducing that stuff because when you talk about whatever the fuck they want to be, so when
Yeah,
you
and
bring in,
it's really interesting because I mean, like in your dreams, you can be whatever you want. That's why they're called your dreams.
yeah, exactly. Like I thought, and I in this movie are fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, you have Kirsten. I think Kirsten's a very likable character. I
I
mean,
liked her. Yeah, I really liked her in this, and I really felt with her the way she was just like, you know, she's being chased by a demon. The way she's so scared, how her mom doesn't really care. I just feel bad for her, and that the only person she really had was Nancy.
and also to kind of echo off that as well, Nancy was fucking awesome in this movie too.
Yeah.
Like she came off as a like again. I think now that we're a few years later down her career at this point, like Heather Langenkamp definitely improved from
Oh,
the first
definitely,
movie.
definitely.
And again, she comes off as very likable because she understands what these kids are going through, and she's just like, look, I understand what these kids are going through. I want to help them. And everyone's not fucking believing these kids because, like we said earlier, like these are just teenagers. Like they believe they're just going crazy. And
Yeah, they know that they need help, and nobody's gonna help them because nobody believes them. Except
exactly,
Nancy, because Nancy, she's been there. She knows.
I agree. And I would even say, like, even like the other characters, like Kincaid's fucking
He's
cool.
so funny. I
He
was laughing at
was,
everything he was saying.
bro. He called freaking Freddy a pussy. I
That
mean,
was definitely one of the best characters, dude. I don't care. I'm so glad that he lived. He's so funny.
he's a badass.
Yeah. He was ready to fight Freddy, and that was mad funny.
Bro, he was awesome. Joey was a good character too. I mean, he's a
Oh,
mute
dude, they were
character,
all of them were, and Will too. You know, like and like even Philip. Like I liked Philip for the little screen time he had, and I liked him. And then he had one of the most uncomfortable to watch deaths.
which we will be talking about like soon because we are going to talk about the kills and then we're going to talk about the ending and everything else. But
Yeah,
yeah, like all these characters are memorable in their own way, and that's what we want to see in a film is
that's
memorable
what makes us
characters.
sad when they die. It's because it's like I liked this character and they died. Like even Taryn, she was cool. Like I really liked her and how she was becoming snappier and knew that she had to help. I liked how she immediately jumped on the phone to get Nancy and Neil to come back to help Kristen. She was helping. She wasn't one of those just there for an extra kill. Each character had their own purpose.
Absolutely, and of course we have the myth, the fucking legend himself, Robert Englund, dude.
He's
He
amazing.
was fucking. Oh my god!
He was
And when we're talking
amazing.
about his best film, this is probably the one of the best films he's actually done. And Robert Englund's a fucking awesome actor too.
Oh, he's a
And
legend.
yeah, if there was a like horror hall of fame, he should be like the first one in it. Like
Oh yeah,
he's just like such a good actor and he's very underrated too. Like nobody even
definitely.
bad movies, but dude, like when we're talking about like best like horror villains and like best just actor
Most
overall, like Robert
memorable, yeah. Definitely, definitely. He's just
and
he's so likable. Like you fear him, but at the same time you find him so cool and just funny and likable, but also you want to hate him. That's the problem. You want to hate him, but you can't. But he killed kids, so you gotta.
it's like you want to like him, but at the same time, it's like I don't know if it's the
He's kind
right
of
thing
a
to do.
murderer.
He kind of killed people, so I don't think we
Yeah,
should like him at all.
but he's
But
so fun.
this movie has probably the best blend of the Freddy humor while also the just like dark, like scary Freddy. Like
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Yes.
And one of the things I do want to touch on is this film does introduce more backstory for Freddy than
Mm-hmm.
the other two films. Like we know in one he's like he killed kids
He's a child killer who got killed by said kids'
and
parents. I mean,
and in two he worked at a factory, and then we get this film and we learn more about him. Like he was, his mom was like I think like a nun.
and yeah, she was a nun who was raped hundreds and hundreds of times by criminally insane men when she got locked in by accident over the holidays. Which is like, first off, how do you do that? Doesn't everyone have keys? Like all the workers supposed to have keys or something. But anyway, when they found her, she was I don't like they didn't make it like clear if they found her pregnant or they found her 9 months later with a kid, but either way, Freddy's her kid, and he's born from, how they say it, all the patients. So he's got like all the crazy basically. And he, grew up and became a child killer because, well, when that's your backstory, I don't think you're going to have quite the sane mind.
Pretty much. Yeah, so his backstory is pretty fucked up, not gonna lie. Um
Yeah.
did we did we touch on Neil Gordon's character? I
Not
I
really, but I did find him likable because he really wanted to help the kids. Like, even when he didn't believe about Freddy Krueger trying to kill the kids at first, he still was trying to help.
But you know what? That makes him relatable though, because
Yeah.
even in that situation, he'd still be like, well, who the fuck is like what are these kids
Yeah.
talking about? Essentially. So relatable in the sense, like you said, he wants to help, but at the same time,
He
he
doesn't
does
quite
like he
believe it.
at
Yeah.
first, and then when he stop him, like, and especially when they confront like Nancy's dad, especially like you see him like he's determined to save these kids because he cares about these kids. Like he's been there a long time. He's he trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and when now they sees a solution, he's like, "Fuck, I got to do whatever it takes to basically help them." When you judge like Niels Gordon's character is great overall. Um, Also Lawrence as well. If you didn't know about that. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne was in it.
Yeah,
I
he
thought he was
played
pretty cool.
Max. Oh yeah, he was actually kind of funny too. Like he was pretty relatable in the sense that he's like that that one cool guy, that maybe you work with, maybe he's like your brother or something. He just reminded me of that cool older brother who, as long as you don't get him in trouble, he'll let you do whatever.
Exactly. And I love the interactions between him and Kincaid. Because it's like
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
just a
it's
great
great.
blend
Yeah.
there.
It was
Uh,
really funny. Like he basically just said screw off and he's like, I love you too, bro.
he's like, I love you too, bro. Even though you told me to go fuck myself, it's okay.
It was funny, like I've seen friends talk like that. So it's funny and realistic.
Agreed. And also
It
John Saxon in this film.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And
Again,
like
very
I understand him. Like even like at first when he was hard to deal with, I still understood cuz like he wants to forget how his wife horrifically died, Like he watched it happen.
I agree. Like when we're talking, like again, like you said, like I think he just doesn't want to kind of acknowledge the fact that Nightmare 1 happened. Like
Happened. Yeah,
Like, he
well, I
wants
mean,
to
I
forget.
get it because like a bunch of kids died, and he watched his own wife die, nearly by the man who nearly killed his own daughter.
Yeah, exactly. And technically it was his fault too, because he was
That's
one of the
why he
parents.
drinks to forget. Is because he's in denial, but he knows that he's at fault, almost indirectly at fault.
Exactly. And when he finally has like redemption in the end, I thought I thought it was well earned
Yeah,
because
I just wish his death wasn't just, oh, he got impaled, let's move on, and then like have a fake goodbye, because it wasn't really him. It was Freddy posing as him to get to Nancy. But it's like, then you think about it, it's like, we never really did get a goodbye. He just got impaled and that was it. We never see him ever again.
you know what? I This is actually kind of a complaint that this is a small nitpick. I really wish we had more of a back and forth between Nancy and Freddy. I think
Yeah. Because, like, I was expecting him to go, like, oh, Nancy, it's been a while, or something like that, or Nancy, you've grown, or I don't know, like something. But nothing happened. Like, she might as, like, she mentioned how she knew him, but he might as well have never have met her before, and you wouldn't have known it.
exactly, like, all he says is you, and then he
Yeah,
just like tells her to die.
yeah, he just says you as if she was being a nuisance to him the entire time, not his arch enemy from the first movie.
It's like, shit, it's the person who beat me the first time. Son of a bitch, you're
Yeah,
back.
instead it's just like, oh, you're a nuisance. Like, what?
So, I mean, when we're talking, like, just overall, I think the characters are memorable. The
Oh
story
yeah,
is great.
definitely.
Let's talk about the nightmare sequences.
So the first one was pretty cool actually. I really like this. Kristen wanted to save this little girl. First off, I don't say this often because kid actors always suck. But this little girl was actually not bad. She actually had that like kind of unsettling monotone voice, and it really worked honestly. And then like she was running through the nightmare house trying to run from Freddy, and like I just thought like how you see his shadow before you see him like kind of running around, I thought was really cool. And of course her running super slow, that's how dreams work. And she finally gets away, and then she gets woken up by her radio. I liked it
Yeah,
personally. It's a good start.
and I will say though too is it's very creative the way the movie starts too. Is like you see her go from like building this like the house with like paper mache and like popsicle sticks,
Yeah.
and then it turns into like you see the actual house and like there's the little girl and she's like Freddy's home, and then
Yeah, I really like that line when she's like Freddy's home. I thought she delivered that pretty well.
again I love the usage of again the just like the creative like dream sequences here like in the house, because you see Freddy, just you don't see him like at first, like you see is like more so a shadow, but you do see him running at her, and like
Yeah.
the floor turning into like this liquid to like I
Yeah,
guess
so
it's like
she can't
tar,
run. Mhm. I
and
think
then
it was the like if it were white, I would say maybe it was a paper mache, but it looked like mud.
and then when she like looks down at this little girl,
It's a
a skeleton,
corpse.
and
That
I
was
was
it.
like
That was cool. I
I
like
was like
that.
holy shit, and
Hey,
then
put me down. You're hurting me. She's like a completely mummified skeleton.
I was like holy crap.
One thing
Uh,
I did like is how they foreshadowed everyone's like deaths, and it all tied into like their past, and they kind of foreshadowed a bit, like Philip is sleepwalking and how he liked marionettes. I really like that combination. Even if it made me
and
uncomfortable to watch, I thought it was dope. And
and even
like the
like
acting, dude.
And even when like you think it's not, when you think the dream sequence is over, like you see like the sink candle, like it, like you see the claws, and like like you
Yeah.
see, I think Freddy was in the mirror too.
Yeah,
Um,
I really thought that was pretty interesting. It's just like everything like visually looked pretty good.
and then like you see her like holding like this razor blade, like kind of making it look like she was about to commit suicide. I
And that's why
thought,
she got admitted.
yeah. And that to me is one thing I liked about the Nightmare series is that like even though like what you see in the dreams is happening, like in the real world, it makes it look like it's suicide.
It makes it look so much different. If Freddy sets it up how he wants, like in the first movie, how he set it up to be like a murder almost, and framed the one kid, and he did make his death look like a suicide as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just like everything that was done very just it's just done and executed like
One
just
thing I
perfect.
liked with some of the camera work is that in some scenes it was very like foggy almost, like the lens were very white, kind of like a dream state almost.
Pretty much.
Everything was very sterile and white, like a psychiatric place, and just also had this like dreamlike feeling, which makes sense for the movie.
Yeah, I would say so. Um then I believe the next sequence was again like this was like way after she gets put in the psych ward. Kirsten has another nightmare and she's back in the house
Yeah.
and like you see like all these disgusting images like I think there was like a dead pig on a plate I think and it's
Yeah,
like
it was pretty gross to see.
it was like a tense scene where like nothing was happening but it was building the atmosphere.
And that's the most important thing about a horror movie is that you need atmosphere, or else it's not going to work. And that's what a lot of horror movies nowadays fail to do. They don't build atmosphere; they just go at it with jump scares.
Like this movie does a lot of really cool like has great atmosphere and
Mm-hmm.
I would even say like and then you see like the walls like coming like just to basically like you see holes starting to form and like because it's this gigantic like Freddy worm come out. I
Oh,
was like,
the Freddy worm was gnarly, and then it introduces Kirsten's power that she could pull people into her dreams, and she pulls Nancy in to save her, and that's when Nancy knows this is Freddy's work. I thought it was pretty cool is when she's like, "Oh my god," because she knows who it is.
and then like she stabs Freddy's like eye with like a shard of glass. I was like, holy
Yeah, and then
shit.
you see her hand cut in the real world, so it like go calls back to like when you get hurt or killed in dream, same thing happens in reality.
And she's just like, oh fuck, here we go again. Mm.
Ah shit, here we go again.
This is also something I want to touch on too. Is the Hypnosil. Again, like it's a great introduction to Hypnosil because once again in Freddy versus Jason they bring this back.
Yeah,
Uh,
the dream suppressant.
yeah, and it makes sense because at this point when it's like, well, people are having nightmares.
And it makes sense why when she falls asleep, she's not scared to fall asleep, or she's not always in the nightmare until Kirsten pulls her in.
Exactly. It's like just like this movie, like I said, I can't praise this movie enough. I think this movie does so much good that honestly there's a lot like I like there
Like
probably are
there
if
are
you really
some problems, but it's not like enough to ruin the movie. It's just something you kind of shrug at or you overlook because you like the movie, or it's just a little nitpick that when you put it to today's standards, you're gonna go, yeah, okay, I can see it.
exactly.
Like some of the CGI. I mean, 1987. Of course, it's gonna be dated. Don't get me wrong. Like with the
Right.
electrocutions, and like how Nancy's father, when he shows up, like his quote unquote ghost form, like the way he just zooms in. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny. But like back then, that was like normal. But like when you look at it today, it's cheesy. And you know how they ruled Jennifer's death as a suicide despite the fact it was clearly not a suicide. Like I don't even know how someone could murder her like that. You walk into a huge TV, dude, those TVs are strong. Like don't like I don't know if you ever come in contact with a bubble TV, dude, but those things, you put someone's head through it, you gotta have some kind of force, let alone lift her off the ground. Like, and then they just said it's a suicide. Like, I don't know, that always bugged me. Or my last two complaints are kind of like hand in hand with each other, but it's not like a huge deal. It's just Nancy and her father didn't get enough, like, when they died, they didn't get enough, like, screen time during their deaths. They just kind of died and they moved on.
Yeah,
It just
I
went
kind
by too
of that.
quickly. It's like Nancy's your main character from the first film who kind of like brought it all together and figured everything out. And she just kind of died. And don't get me wrong, like her death was very powerful, especially when Kirsten was holding her and kissed her on the head, because that's all she had left was Nancy, because she's the one who understood her, who, you know, showed her power, and she's gone. And then it just kind of zoomed, like faded out to her funeral, and it's like that didn't give any time. Like she just kind of died, and I don't know. It just, I feel like it wasn't enough of a send off for the character. It wasn't horrible. It's just I feel like there wasn't enough.
Yeah, I could see that. I think my only complaint with this film is when Freddy turns himself into a fucking was that. I mean, I like, don't get me wrong. I know like Freddy can like go. I guess can go into someone else's body, but I never fucking saw him turn into a giant skeleton.
That was like really weird. Like it looked like uh Ash versus like the medieval dead there. That's what I call Army of Darkness. But they pulled a whole Army of Darkness stop motion. Don't get me wrong, it did look good. You know, when you watch it today and you compare it, you know, obviously you can see where it's dated, how it's obviously like one screen over another and they're just lining everything up. But there, for its time, is great stop motion and the way they did it. But it's like, it's kind of silly when you watch it now, especially like me who's an Evil Dead fan, and I saw, you know, skeletons getting up to fight people as comedy, and then they put it in a horror movie. It's just, it's kind of funny to me, even though this movie did it first. I just can't get it out of my head.
True. Um. All right. Let's talk about the first death of this film, and that was Philip, where
Oh,
his
he was
trait
cool too. That was the
was
unfortunate part.
exactly, and so they introduced the fact that he's a sleepwalker, and he was like building like
Marionettes. And
yeah
like,
these marionettes.
I just liked how like he felt like a real, like these kids did feel like actual teenagers. They didn't feel like adults playing teenagers. Like when Phil was kind of giving attitude and stuff like that and just being your typical teenagers, like, yeah, they don't give me a knife, why not? And then he just like, you know, plays off, oh, I'm gonna kill my, like they think I'm gonna kill myself. It's like that is like, well, I can see a teenager doing that. And that's like another thing this movie does great with their writing is they wrote the teenagers to be teenagers.
Exactly, and I was actually going to call the marionettes puppets, but
Yeah.
I'll
I
call
mean,
them
they're still
puppets.
puppets. They're still puppets. Puppets are puppets.
So he's asleep, and Freddy's like, and then Freddy becomes a puppet himself, which I thought
I
looked
thought
still
it was
looked
really
really cool.
comedic. Like it was cool. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the stop motion looked fantastic. I just thought it was kind of goofy.
It's goofy, but it makes sense, right?
And then
Like,
when he's like cut, like when he's like swiping his like fingers at Phil and you see blood going on his face, you don't know what exactly he's doing at first until it zooms out and his, oh my god, his veins come out of his arms and legs and he becomes a marionette himself. And I was like, oh my god, dude, the effects look so good and so real. I was cringing while watching it because it was just so painful to watch. And like Philip's actor, dude, like his facial expressions and just like the small little noises he makes of pain, it's just like it really sold it to make me cringe. It was just really well done.
and oh man, and I love Kincaid's line during the scene too, where he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
having a troll asshole.
Yeah, like Kate, he's funny. He's just so funny.
Fucking
He just
awesome.
does not care.
Oh man, he's a great character, and just
Yeah. And when they were
and again,
trying,
like you said,
yeah.
you freaking shit. Fuck, I keeps it Philip.
Mm.
Philip, you know the fact.
I think like the part where they were trying to stop him, dude. Like the tension,
Uh,
the tension was so high,
yeah,
and I
and
really like it was so well done, and how they're just trying to scream for him to stay awake and like to wake up, and like it was really well done, and like I really because these characters are really smart, and that's what also I liked is that they're smart characters. Is like, the Will broke the window to start yelling at him. And then Joey comes in because he can't yell. He comes in, waking everyone up so they can all band together and start screaming. Like it
yeah,
was really smart.
and then when Freddy swipes the veins and like and
That
it makes
it
it look like
was
he didn't
just
jump.
Yeah, it was so well done, and I thought the effects in that scene especially looked great.
Oh, absolutely, and that scene in general is fucking memorable.
It is.
Um,
It's probably one of the best kills in the franchise.
absolutely. Um, and of course you get like you said, and actually I want to bring this up too is the group therapy sessions.
I like
I
them.
think again, yeah, I did as well because again it shows like what their characters are, and at the same time you also
You
show the
can learn
psychiatrist.
about them in a realistic way instead of them just saying it. It's a good way of like out with it, so you can know about the character without it going, oh, they're forcing it.
Jack saw the budget for this movie was, I believe, like I'm gonna round this up to about 4.5 mil for
Jeez,
this
back
film.
then, dude, that was a lot.
Yeah, and it ended up making about 44.8 million back. So it made a shit ton of money back.
Yeah, and like back in the 80s, man, like I mean like money wasn't that different, but it was still worth more than it is now.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this movie used its budget fairly well, uh, especially at the time.
Yo, yeah, definitely. The effects look great.
And so we get to the next night death scene, which is Jennifer, and she's like a smoker, uh, who wants to be like an actress or whatever, and she's like, no,
I don't know if she was a smoker per se versus just she needed to keep herself awake by burning herself.
and this scene in particular, and yeah, Lawrence Fishburne was like, no, you gotta go to bed. She's like, no, come on, let me stay up. And he's like, no. And she's like, please. And he's like, all right, fine. But
See,
won't
cool
let
older brother figure.
exactly.
And he
And
cares about these kids. That's what also I like about him because he genuinely cares.
she like burns herself with a cigarette, which I was like, oh god, that's
But it
painful.
didn't work because she fell asleep because the I thought was cool is how she's watching how like this actress giving advice, and then the talk show host turns into Freddy and the thing goes. I thought was really cool is when she's walking towards the TV, you can hear the women screaming through the TV.
Oh, I like that too. I always thought it was funny that Freddy freaking was like, who gives a fuck what you think? And then he just kills
Yeah,
her.
because Freddy's not like he's so like funny but scary, That's
It's
what I
like
like about him.
if it was like Jason or Michael Myers, like he'd just be silent and just kill her. But
Yeah, but he talks. Freddy's like the Deadpool of killers. He has a mouth and he's always gonna use it.
oh man, that line was fucking awesome. But and then like she bangs on the TV and like the arms come out, which I thought
That
looked
was
cool.
great. Yeah, it looks so good.
And then actually, this is a fun fact for you: the line "Welcome to Prime Time, bitch" was actually was like improvised.
Oh, I knew about that. I'm like, yeah, that's why I think Freddy. Oh, Jesus, Freddy. He really is Freddy, though. Robert Englund is just so brilliant. It's because like I called him Freddy. He is Freddy because he's improvising like the most memorable lines for him.
It's like not only is Prime Time, bitch, one of like the best lines in the franchise. It's like one of the most like memorable scenes because of that.
Yeah.
Like he smashed it, and yeah, it's kind of stupid, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? It's stupid. It's
But
not
the thing is,
supposed like
it's supposed to be funny, and it's like it makes
right.
sense because like she wants to be on TV, prime time. There you go, and then he kills her.
Exactly. I was like, damn, this was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then I believe the next one was like during a group therapy session where like they're doing the
Yeah, it was
hypnosis.
Taryn. Taryn,
Well, they did one before that. It was like the hypnosis scene.
yeah, no, Joey doesn't die. He was he was held hostage.
Yeah, but that was I was gonna bring up. It's like during that dream sequence, we see like all of them have see you see what their special abilities are. Like Kirsten flips and like she could do all these like gymnastic like type flips. Kincaid's like the muscle man because he's a badass.
Will can
Taryn
walk, and he has
Will
wizard powers.
can walk and he's a wizard.
Taryn,
And Taryn's a badass.
She's beautiful and bad.
And then we don't know what Neil or Nancy's powers are, which is kind of depressing.
They didn't have any, unfortunately. And we find out Joey's later, but he gets caught up with the hot nurse he likes, and she ties him up on a bed, and he goes to Freddy's realm. And in reality, he's put into a deep coma because I guess it's technically like when in the dream state, it's like your soul leaves your body for a bit. So his soul's like trapped in Freddy's realm while his body's in a coma.
Yeah, like, and also like what I like is like she's like spitting out like her tongues.
Yeah, it was really nasty.
And then she turns into Freddy. And he's like, "What's wrong, Joey? Feeling tongue-tied?"
Yeah. And then
like
they go into because that happens. Nancy and Neil get kind of like not really like fired, but like kicked off. And then like because they get rid of Nancy, Kristen gets upset and they put her in the quiet room and sedate her, which makes her fall asleep. So Taryn calls Neil and Nancy for them to come back, but they're trying to get Freddy's bones, and the only person who knows where Freddy's bones are the one who killed him. So they go to find Nancy's father at the bar, but he's trying to drink to forget about the first movie. So it's hard to get him. So Nancy goes back to help the kids while Neil gets her father to go find the bones so they could put him to rest.
Yeah, and actually the other thing I want to bring up is like I think there was this scene where like Nancy was like, sitting, at Joey's bedside, and then you see Freddy like scratch the words "Come and get him, bitch."
Yeah, but it's like he scratched it in his flesh. Was it actually there?
I don't
that part
think
kind of
so.
confused me because like, but she wasn't asleep and it wasn't actually there, was it? Like, I don't know.
No, I think it was no, I think it was a dream because it didn't come back in 4, so
I don't know. But
we'll never know. So we get to the final act where again they do they kind of fall asleep again, and Freddy like they're in like the quiet room, but like I call it like the padded room.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And so they get separated because like Freddy's like scratching the walls and like all these feathers are going all over the place. And I think Taryn was the first one to die here.
Yeah, Taryn she was holding her own against Freddy, fighting him with her knives in the back alley, and she stabbed him a few times. And it pretends to be hurt at first until like he holds up his fingers and they turn into heroin needles because she was an addict. And it's definitely one of his most iconic like picture looks with him holding up the heroin needle fingers, and her arms like where she where junkies put the needles, the holes turn into like little mouths pulsating, and she's so gross. And then he stabs them into those holes and kills her. But like before she like dies, you see her like veins kind of popping out and her like skin turning gray, and it was just really gruesome, and it looked great.
Oh, it did. And like you said, it's again one of those things where this movie brings out like their character traits, and it ends up working. Like here, she's a drug addict, and Freddy uses drugs against her.
Yeah. And then the next is Will, and
Will.
his is very short lived. He gets chased by like a demon wheelchair, and then he summons his power, and he looks like a dork in his wizard costume. He destroys the wheelchair, and Freddy acts all surprised at first, but then he's not. So when he chases after him with his powers, Freddy just grabs him by the neck, and it's kind of funny because he's just like, die loser, and stabs him and kills him. And that was
That's
it.
basically what
That
he
was it
said.
for Will.
He's like, fuck you, loser. That would have been a fucking awesome line if he said. He'd be like, fuck you, loser, and he just
That
stabs
would
him.
have, and he just freaking stabs him in the heart.
That would have been a fucking awesome ass scene.
Yeah.
But his death was underwhelming though. Like it was just kind of.
It went by so fast.
Yeah. And then you had Kirsten's sequence where it's like we're back in the beginning of the movie, and she's telling her mom like, "Can you stay for a while?" And then you hear a guy in the back go, "Where's the bourbon?" And then Freddy shows up in a suit. He's like, "I said,
where's the bourbon?" It was so funny. He holds up her head, and she's like, "Why can't I can never bring a man around you without shrieking."
And then like you see her do some flips. Oh man, dude, Freddy's like this movie just so memorable in terms of lines and oh god. So they end up like coming back together. Kincaid shows up. He gets kissed on the cheek by both Kirsten and Nancy, which I thought was nice because he deserves it. He's a badass.
Yeah.
He calls Freddy a couple times, and then a door opens up to basically hell, where we see Freddy, in his domain, essentially.
I think your mic's kind of like fuzzing, just letting you know.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see Freddy in his own domain, and then he's like, "What?"
I know sometimes when your mic isn't like plugged in all the way or something, it can make this fuzzy noise.
Hang on a minute. Better?
I don't know if it's my phone or you, though. Hold on, keep talking.
Hello?
I'll just have to deal with it.
Well, all right. Well, I'm at this point.
I don't know.
All right. So you see Freddy in like the hellscape, and you see Freddy's like, he's about to like drop Joey because by this point he's like still like in the same position where he was on the bed, and like you see the tongue start to loosen because like there's this huge like fire pit.
And he's about to drop him, and they're like, "Let him go." He's like, "Your wish is my command." And it's like really great. I love that. And then they work together to save Joey.
They impale him.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's about to kill Kincaid, but then he knows his bones are about to get buried. So he possesses his own bones and kills Nancy's father like way too quickly, in my opinion, because like he had like nothing. And then he knocks out Neil, and he starts to bury him a bit before he does this like victory howl basically, and his bones fall back, and he goes back to the dream world, and he starts entrapping them in mirrors, and it looks really cool. And then that's when Joey figures out his power, and it's because he can't talk. In his dreams he can, and he's got like this glass shattering scream that destroys all the mirrors and sets them free.
Yeah, like I thought that was really well done, especially because Joey's a mutant character.
I knew he was gonna have like a voice like type power, but it's just I didn't know how or when they were gonna bring it in.
Exactly. So you had like him just like scream like, and then you see the mirrors break. But this is the one thing I wanted to bring up here is that they introduced the soul chest here in this film.
Oh yeah, it looks really cool. It was really disturbing.
Like you see like all like the faces in his chest, and like because they impale him and Kincaid's being choked out by Freddy, like a little like he's like choking him out. He's like
Yeah.
Ah, he's like freaking doing like a freaking Bart Simpson like choke like
Yeah.
Homer choking Bart type thing, and then Nancy's like he's never been this strong, and then Freddy's like the souls of the children give me strength, and then you see the peeling of his shirt back, and you see like all these faces and stuff. Like, oh my god, that was fucking crazy. And of course, the skeleton scene I have a problem with because I'm like, well, that'd be an interesting movie for the fourth one. And this is what they should have done: is he should have had Freddy be like he should have also been like a skeleton, and he should have been running around like killing people while also being in the dreamscape. I thought that would have been a really cool idea. Um, and also this is the early version of a Fortnite dance. Let's be honest. So you have that, and yeah, of course, the Joey stuff, and then to the ending of the film, where by this point the bones are in like he's about to be like buried in like holy water, and Neil at this point is like, he's hurt. He's like, I'm doing this for Nancy, for the children, and then of course, Freddy stabs Nancy, which I kind of agree could be considered underwhelming, but I still liked it though.
Yeah, and then before he can kill Kirsten, Nancy stabs Freddy, which kind of incapacitates him. And then Neil throws holy water on him, and then the cross, which finally kills him. And then Nancy dies in Kirsten's arm as Kirsten's crying because that's the only person she had. And then it cuts to her funeral, which was like, okay, kind of short because, Nancy was a huge character, but all right.
Yeah.
And then it shows everyone at her funeral, and then Neil turns around to see the nun that he's been talking to that gave him the hint on what to do on how to stop this. And he chases after her, and instead of finding her, he finds the tombstone of Amanda Kruger that had the nun's name on it. Saint what was it? Our sister with something Melina.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was Amanda Kruger was the nun.
Oh, Austin.
And yeah.
Austin, your mic, it got a bit worse. I'm just letting you know.
Well, your mic right now for me is actually bad.
Oh, well, that's just my fault.
Hang on. Hang on. Better?
Yeah, my phone doesn't have a great mic. It's not meant for StreamYard. It's just my computer's not working.
Yeah. So is it just I think it might be
I think it might be StreamYard because if it's both of us, I think it just might be StreamYard.
It might be because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, because it's happening to because you're coming in like staticky for me. So
yeah, and you're getting like really staticky. So I think it just might be the site right now if it's both of us.
Yeah. So, well, apparently, Jaxall said that we sound good now. So I mean,
Oh, okay. I don't know.
So, and actually, the ending of the movie is great too, because you see Neil like he's going to sleep, and then you see the light in like the
the house turn on. So it's like, oh, Freddy's like. I wish they didn't do like as a concept. It's cool, and it is a cool way to end the film. But then you're like, oh, so none of that works. So what was the point?
Exactly.
So I kind of wish they didn't do that, but I do like how he had the Malaysian doll over him to give him good dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was basically Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I mean, what is there left to say? I mean, this movie's fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, the kills are great, the characters are great, the story's great. It's just everything's great.
And even like the music at the end with Doc and the Dream Warriors song.
Oh yeah, I really like it. I like the rock music, and I mean even some of like the other music, like when Taryn was fighting Freddy, I really liked the music that was playing there.
Like to me, Freddy always had the badass music.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the '80s score. It was great.
I mean, of course, Jason. They had their like iconic stings, but freaking Freddy like always had the badass music. Um, and Jacksaw, we did talk about our negatives earlier. Uh,
There wasn't many. That's why I went by so fast. It's just because like
like
the negatives we had were like either little nitpicks or outdated things, or just like little like plot holes or whatever that made you go, "Why did they think that?" Like Jennifer's death is obviously not a suicide, but like I mentioned, it's just like there's more pros than there is cons. So it's just a very short talk with that.
like yeah, like the CGI at times could be iffy, but I'm not
That
gonna
was the
judge the movie.
80s. It's the 80s.
Exactly.
That's the best they could do.
Like it might have looked good back then,
Well, yeah, because
but
that was the best they can do.
yeah, now it doesn't look good. But I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna basically bash the movie for it though. I think the movie
Yeah.
deserves like a little bit more praise than that. Um,
Yeah, I just wish that Nancy and her father got better endings, and that somebody like even just like somebody said, "Hey yo, Jennifer's hanging from a TV. You're gonna rule suicide." Like I just wish somebody would come out and say, "Are you guys stupid?" Just like those three things just bugged me about the movie. But other besides that, I can't really bring up anything I hated.
okay. With that being said, let's give our final scores. I'll let you go first.
Uh, I'm gonna give it A or a 9.5 out of 10.
Ooh, very nice. Good scores. Um,
Thank you.
I'm actually gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it an A, and I am also gonna give it a 9.5. I think this movie is just amazing. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
definitely. It's the best
I
nightmare
think
film.
other than the first one, and I would even say New Nightmare, like this is probably the best Nightmare movie. I
Yeah.
mean, perfect blend of the Freddy humor because
And
by
him being like very dark and gritty.
because by Nightmare 4, that's when they start going into the direction of more comedy.
Where he's
And
mad goofy.
like he's not goofy yet, because trust me, 5 is where they start going
Oh
like,
yeah, but he's getting there. He's getting there.
but 6 is where they get way too fucking overboard with it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, when we get to Freddy's Dead, man, holy shit. It's
Super
bad.
Freddy sucks.
Super Freddy sucks. Oh god, freaking like 4. I still I like 4. I mean, but the 4 has problems.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's I'd still say it's a solid sequel. But we'll talk about that next week. But going back to this, great kills, great story, just like everything in this movie just fits. And you know what's funny? All like the really good Nightmare movies have to do with Wes Craven, Heather Langenkamp, and Robert Englund.
Oh yeah.
Like, did you notice that? Because you had Nightmare 1, which featured all of them, which was great. Then you have Nightmare 3, which basically featured all of them, which was fucking great. And then when we get to Nightmare 7, I thought that was awesome. So it kind of shows you, like, Wes Craven knew what the hell he was doing.
Because it's his creation. You can't take somebody's creation away and make someone else do it. It's never going to be right.
Exactly.
Because only you know what's going to go on when it comes from your head.
Absolutely. And so I think at the end here, I think we can all agree that this movie is just amazing. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's just a consensus. This movie's awesome. Before we wrap it up, we are going to get to the chat here. Let's see here. Where are we going to start off with? Was there CGI in this, or was it all practical effects? It was a combination of both. I know,
But it was mostly practical.
but they did have to use CGI in certain areas, I believe.
Yeah. Like the magic from Will, or like when Freddy was over the ward, or like when he was I know like the skeleton was stop motion, but they still use like camera tricks to like blend the two screens.
Yeah. Jackstall comes in. It's one of those movies. If they tried to remake it, they would fuck it up.
Luckily, they haven't remade Nightmare 3. They only remade the first movie. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That was it. That really was it.
Let's see here. comes. Oh wait, hang on a minute. Let me see. Damn it! Come on, Streamlord. Even the dad from the first one comes back and does a better performance than the first one.
I do like his performance in this, but I like him in both personally.
Yeah, I do as well. He's like, there is no place to go but down, but down. The next moves are all downhill now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Except for New Nightmare.
Yeah, it does start to go downhill with 4. I will be honest, it does. Oh my god, how many movies we have left to go? Well, let's see here. I think we have like 5 more to go because we have to review.
Like that. There's like 9 movies altogether.
Because let's see here.
There's
no,
1, 2,
yeah,
3,
there is
4, 5, 6. New Nightmare, Freddy vs. Jason. Get the remake.
And the remake. Yeah, that's 9. Is it? Yeah. So I think it's 6 weeks to go now.
Yeah.
Shit. I mean, we basically got a month and a half to talk about Nightmares. So I mean,
it's fun. It's definitely fun.
Hell yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. So anything else you want to bring up before we wrap it up?
No, other than I'll see you next week with my own opinions on number 4.
Hell yeah. With that being said, though, guys, we are gonna wrap this up. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank you guys for just coming in, just giving you guys your guys' own opinions.
And thanks for bearing with us with StreamYard's glitches and my computer crashing because Microsoft hates me.
And I am going to end the poll here because I'm going to give the final results here for this recent poll. What did you guys think of Dream Warriors? 71% said it was awesome. 14% said it was okay, and 14% said they didn't see it.
Well, damn, you should go see it.
Yeah, I think if you didn't see it,
please do.
Like, see it.
Yes.
Like, just do it.
Go see it. What are you waiting for?
But with that being said, though, guys, Angry CareBears, tell everybody where they can find you at.
You can find me at Angry CareBears on YouTube or Angry CareBears 2 on Twitch, though I am rarely on Twitch. I'm more active on YouTube. I'm trying to be more active recently, but hey, you can find me there, and that's it for me.
And you can also find her here on Tuesdays, usually for Austinator and Friends Talk Pop Culture, whenever the fuck.
Depends on what we're doing. We've all been busy. And every Saturday night now with Austin, and we'll be talking about Nightmare and whatever movie we discuss after Nightmare. But we got 6 weeks ahead of us, so we got some time.
Oh, absolutely. But this is going to be a very interesting series, just us talk about films. Like, we may agree on them, we may disagree. I mean, this is it's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And lastly, you can find me here on my own channel. Like I said, it's just my channel. Just go subscribe. 2 away from 180. You haven't subscribed. I do a bunch of stuff on here. Again, with work and stuff, my schedule's kind of fucked. So, just check me out whenever I do a stream. For the Bad Batch Roundtable. You can find me on Chris Knight's channel for the weekly wrap-up. You can find me on JJ's channel for randomness at its finest. Nerdgasms when they happen on LDG's channel. Basically everybody's channels at this point. Just go and sub. Yeah. That about does it. I mean, I really have nothing else to say. Yeah. That's it for me here. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. This is the Austinator, signing out.
See ya!
Later, guys.